Just did some stretching. It's good for me. Sort of a stretching. I like just to move slowly, especially when I'm near water. Try some different postures or different movements. The more fluid I become sometimes to enjoy the stretch, and just not finding just the same old positions, because that's a good stretch. It solved all the issues it needed to, and I just would do the same stretch all the time. It's like, I'm just trying to do other things too, around it. Still a good stretch. I'm gonna elaborate a bit more, have some fun with it. Get home safely. Your bicycles. It's loud, mesmerizing, but sickening and cold. I have family who are bullies. Schizophrenic in that really useful way that they'll never be diagnosed with schizophrenia, and I wouldn't wish it on anybody anyway. I mean, it's a group disorder. Violence is a group disorder. Humans get twisted. What can we say? But we can also feel how bad that is, and we can also feel that sort of counterpoint to it all. The reason we feel pain is because we're still sound enough to know what's better. Our voices and our sense of personal power haven't been encouraged to feel at the outset terribly worthy of other people. So you deny it. Okay. Or you don't, or you feel it anyway. And the denial of human beings, as useful as an industrial as it is, can be something to love when you're sensible that the things you could say and feel that don't seem right to you may not be useful in talking about to other people. You might even find, if you take time talking like I do, that you'll feel and see and know things and put into words that make things so glaringly clear. See how easily it is. Reality is confused in the first place. That after much, much work, it can seem really quite obvious. So, from a feminist perspective, the sexual harassment of today was not sexual harassment. That's shocking, isn't it? So, not always in all ways, but I'm making a point here. Feminists, I'm going to give you credit. That's any and all people who have worked to the goals of feminism as stated by authorities on the subject. Let's say, probably women, and hopefully some men too. And if they're allowed, and their balls are tied behind their back. A little bitterness there, okay? I make bitterness. Will be stricken from the record, but has heard it and will make their judgment accordingly. That there are all kinds of things that humans should feel bad about doing or not doing. Right? In the course of your day, you probably don't want to make anyone feel like shit. Right? When someone's bullied in any way by your company or your profession, they feel confused, scared, and humiliated and angry. And that could boil away in their blood for the rest of their life and make them sick. Okay? That's one. Two, I'm guessing not anyone you work with wants to ever make anyone feel that way. It doesn't seem logical to want to do that. You probably want people to feel the opposite. And you want to feel like, hey, look, people are feeling good. I just bring a feel-good kind of vibe everywhere I go. And boy, aren't they nice. Okay? Now, there's a range among all of us, I know, because I know where I stand in that range, of how good are you with people? Because most people would admit, if you put it in pleasing enough tones, that people can be difficult, especially when you work with people. So what do you have? Patience. You develop skills. You might have another employee who deals with difficult people, and you're like, wow, that's amazing. Some people bring different skills, better skills. Some people, they deserve to be taught better skills. Sometimes it's just called being more professional. It's also basically dealing with abnormal psychology, whether it's someone you work with or a client. And we don't call it that, but, people need different things. It's crazy what they'll expect from someone that they're buying a glass of wine off of, but there it is. Okay? It's a kaleidoscope. And I've sat there and watched my own father behave to people in restaurants in a way that I felt personally ashamed of. It affected me, let alone that random woman or not. It affected me for the rest of my life. So I know there is a wrong and right way of treating people. At the end of the day, yes, it's subjective, but the effect is also subjective and very real. Regardless of the intent. People, whether we call people bullies or not, they put out all kinds of energy, okay? Even in the course of trying to be friendly, people can hurt people's feelings. Hey, how you doing there, you old nigger? That's not funny, Grandpa. That doesn't work at all. Not even as a kind of throwback to the 1920s in like the most purulently racist part of America. And even then it wasn't right, Grandpa. It was never right. You understand? That was never funny. Oh, okay. And it's not fair to Grandpa, is it? Because what I've just shown you and what you've just seen in that example is that some things people do actually get away with. Because of what? The environment. Because violence is group related. Back to feminism. Feminism found out, I'm just sort of using that term, feminism, people, real people, women and men who did the work and suffered the pain, help us to know that things like racism is structural. Like, how do we get masses of white men to behave better to women when everything they've been taught, trained, learned, or forced to resort, which is being charitable, or having inherited the masculine toxicity from planet Krypton. And I don't mean to make fun, but it's like the source of human evil, you sort of have to make up a story. But whatever your story about its origins, you're not trying to detract from the fact that it's real. The effect of male violence on women is real. It is catastrophic to the human race. Right? Full stop. Okay? Any and all. Because I just said, male and female energy are the two dominant energies in the world. And if they're out of balance, yes, one will do more than just threaten. It will dominate the other. And it's a sickness born by us all. Nature, I'm sure, life, your own womb, your testicles, probably go in and out of various different waves of relationship to the waves of nature, the waves of creation, which, broadly speaking, might be more or less male on any given day. So some days are kind of like Women's Day, and some day might be Men's Day. But if in perfect circumstances, this would make everything better for everybody. Women could say, oh, it's Men's Day. Takes the load off, I don't need people to worship me today. Tomorrow, Women's Day. Oh, yes. Women are beautiful. Women are beautiful. Then it's Men's Day. And on Men's Day, all you have to do is go, okay, men aren't always so bad. That's the limit. That's all you have to do on Men's Day. And just some days in the year, like Men's Day, and be like, okay, some men aren't so bad. Golly gee. Because it makes your heart feel better. Right? And for a guy like me who kind of hates women, I'd be like, yesterday I had a moment like, oh, women aren't so bad. It felt like a really feminine day. It felt like the Mother Goddess was saying, hey, Lennon, thanks for opening up your heart to the female nature of reality. And it was nice. Just like the early days when I became a feminist in my 20s. And it's like, and a poet, I did everything in life to be closer to my mother and to connect to femininity. And please don't take that like I'm trying to gain your favor or look like a really nice man. I'm not. I'm a misogynistic, chlamydia-ridden cunt, okay? But it's something for you to judge my character on. It's just a personal fact in my life, collected with artifacts of who or what I am and how I behave to other people. And what it tells us, good or bad, that we are or not prepared to listen to. which might not be very nice. So generally, if I were to tell you and show you, perhaps, if you had a safe place to watch my daily existence from behind a screen darkly, that you probably wouldn't like me. You probably wouldn't think I'm that. And at the very best, I reminded you of something you didn't want to think about. So being around me. And I assume that for most people. Okay, so I don't try myself. But I will say personally, as someone who I guess would go on to be fairly judged, this, that, or the other by any number of strangers in the world, and people don't tend to like me very much unless they find me useful. Just like, if I may say, women out there who get molested a lot. Like, you're pretty, let me just give you my, And I try really hard not to do that to women. The thing I come to young women is buying a cup of coffee. And I try to be very polite. And like, a lot of them are really, I wouldn't say this, but in my mind I would say, oh, you have a lot of strength and poise. Good for you. That's condescending. It doesn't have to hear it. It's just like a sense of admiration. It's pleasant. It's pleasant to have a coffee over a nice. We like it that people look well. We like it that they look healthy. If they're pretty, that's not really the big deal. The thing is that their beauty as a man or woman comes from their health and their strength. Skin looks nice. They look like they're okay. They're enjoying their job. Doesn't mean they really like it, but it's not complete torture. It's just that's good. That's because they can quit. If they want to, maybe do something better. What most people have to do. But I didn't do it, so I feel a little extra, really thankful. Gratitude to people who work me coffee, because I never did that. Paper route. I worked on a farm for a while, and I worked in a fast food place. That's pretty much my up until the age of 25 or 26, and I quit and had no life. Got depressed. And my life of welfare reciprocation. Most of the first time, I just stayed with it. I guess the idea that there was something out there that would financially support me for my healing, and I thank Canada for that. I don't think there's really someone in Canada who deserves my thanks, but that among the various peoples that have made Canada and the ability to have disability checks possible, and those of you related to them perhaps, and those of you who would like to be, thank you. Thank you for that money. It is, after all, my money, and your money, and my parents' money, and your parents' money, and at the end of the day, in a totally fantastical sense that we're all safe from, if we all looked at all the sacrifices of man, we pretty much should all be thanking each other. And for the privilege of having it, and for the privilege of not being molested by you or me or anyone else. Because we're pretty much okay, as long as we have our car, our TV. Most people hurt other people. The trouble is that people still hurt other people. So, those two realities are strangely symbiotic. In a way that makes them both look a little bit suspicious. I love that reality is good. I hate it that reality can be so good that it helps things that aren't good to hide. Because people really, really want reality. And I don't mean like you have to walk around every day and be like, God, think of all of the disease in the city. Think of all of the bad thoughts. Think of all of the awful situations. Think of the history, the karma, the residual mental illness of all the people. What would you like to say to that? If you could. Would you like to address it safely from behind 10 feet of lead and remote CCTV satellite cameras from a secure bunker in the Pentagon? What would you say to it? What would you tell that energy? Now think carefully. No one's ever asked it. It's not exactly a grade 3 assignment, but think about it. It's not for children, by the way. None of my stuff is. But we're all children in a way, so I try to be careful. What would you say? What would you say to that if you've ever felt like, yes, I've got my own problems and stuff, but some days you're just like, you can feel it. What if life could be better? What if we are just feeling a kind of, less than it should be in the overall atmosphere of man's mentality. Because we do have a mentality. Towns have mentalities, families have mentalities. You maybe at some point you went to a bank and you decided, you know what, I don't like that bank. Well, I don't like that branch. There's another squirrel. Cool. Yeah, they probably don't want to be stared at. And you didn't like it. You didn't like the energy, the mentality. And it may not be that everyone that worked there was like you didn't like. Maybe it come through just one person or the management usually, right? But yet everyone did work there. They were all part of the same mentality, right? And you go somewhere else and you like it, right? Because the worst mentality you discover is the hardest one to change, isn't it? Like by the time you go to a bank and anyone is rude to you, and you've never had that happen before, you could complain to the manager, but if there's no luck there, you're going to change branches. Because you're pretty sure wherever else you go, that's never going to happen again. But it just happened to you. And maybe it seemed, maybe you said something, maybe you did something. Maybe you think, what kind of mood was I in that day? Is it me? Was it me? Because it might be. I don't know. It's quite unbelievable, and it generally, passive aggression and stuff, tends to strike people, and any number of us can be those people, that might be, on balance, inclined to think that maybe it's something about them. You know, which it is, but it's only because you're there, and the energy and the disease found something to go for. It's just like bus drivers, right? Bus drivers don't drive aggressively, right? Because if they did, they'd have their license taken away. People would call. So what the drivers do here is they let their aggression out on their customers while they're boarding the bus. Okay, so, and they chose to pick me several times. So I don't take the bus anymore. But, and so people, where there's a need, people will find a way. It's just an unfortunate part of life. If it's the guy next to you or someplace, it's like, you know, indeed, what do you do with that? And so a lot of people just deny it and keep their head down. Because by the time something feels that bad, you should probably end it, say, oh, it's just the bus. You go home, you go on with your life. Right? But some people, you see, some people like me, we go, that's not right. Because what it's telling me is something I'm obliged to protect my fellow man from. Because people are telling me something that, to me, puts people in danger. So I had several bus drivers tell me that despite anything else that you might do to let an empty bus at an empty bus stop know you might be interested in boarding the bus on a cold winter's day, and in other circumstances quite as clear, where the doors didn't open, that unless I struck the bus physically, I can be denied service for some pretext. Right? One of them even went as far to say, you don't deserve the service unless you knock on the fucking door, essentially. This is dangerous because these are system machinery of transit, and you don't stop at a underground subway and approach the subway when the doors aren't open, right? Unless you know you're taking, right? Approaching, if not a moving vehicle, one that can start moving at any time. Trip, fall, slide, right? It's not something, you don't put babies next to it. You know what I mean? It's a dangerous area. Once you enter into proximity to a machine, you're entering into a danger zone. Especially since if the whole reason you're there is because you think the operator of the vehicle doesn't see you through the glass doors and they're 5 feet away, right? That's a little dangerous. If that person's willing to be aggressive to you, what else are they willing to do? What if they start pulling away when you go up to the bus and your foot slides off the curb and it gets under a wheel? Who's going to pay for that? If they say, oh, it's just an accident. But it wasn't an accident. Any injury that could have occurred while your drivers were practicing passive aggression on me, right? What would that have been seen as the cause of? Just an accident? Well, then people can go through to be aggressive if you have an accident with a client. Right? I said I would have a decision to make, and I do. Because I might have time to go to Ravensong. I haven't gone there years now because of the violence at the bus stop. I don't even like going near there, quite frankly. Ugh. It's such an awful feeling. Isn't that awful? It actually made me, I don't even go to Ravensong Park anymore. Right? It left such a bad feel in my heart. One day I will. But I don't think today is the day. And if I do, I will tell the story. And will enjoy the forest. In fact, I don't think I've really been back at all. I'm not sure if I've been back at all since that happened. I'd have to really search my mind. Because I was really quite upset what happened that day. And I had already been grieving quite pleasantly the passing of one of my relatives, a great father, a great uncle of mine, who had lived a wonderful life. And I thought to myself many times, I wonder how he would have dealt with that. To make such a connection to his beautiful heart energy that he left on the earth, and then to encounter such a heartless, cold being at the bus stop that day after 10 miles of walking for 10 hours. And what did I possibly ignore that? The trouble with passive aggression, it's a very imprecise tool, but especially in the case of passive aggression, the perpetrator is at an advantage that you will be proportionally and commensurately evinced with, that there's no point in complaining because you deserve it. It's essentially the same thing as an alcoholic script. Someone pointing a knife at you and saying, boom, 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 you're not okay. But really, I'm not okay. I don't know that, but I'm clearly not. But I think you are. You're going to take my not okayness into your blood, and you're going to feel that. It's like rape. Passive aggression is rape. Right? They're putting negative energy through the membranes of your mind and your physical body into your heart, into your blood. So raping is robbing, and it robs you of your safety. It robs you of your comfort. It robs you of the safety to go about living your life where and when you become accustomed to doing so. Right? That's robbed you of something. It's taken something away from you. It's taken away your safety. So a number of their drivers told me that, as my mom said, they probably don't like me. It took away my safety taking the bus. They were able to withdraw that from me. And to some degree, you should let them. I would say. That's what I did. I don't take the bus. You have to really listen to them. You know what I mean? A number of their drivers did not want me to be taking the bus anymore. They don't think I deserved the abuse of the safety and courtesy which I heard from the customer. There's Rise building. Nice people. Just nice guys. Nice guys. Nice people. Love that nice male energy. Sun's up there. Ravensong is in the distance. I can see it down the road. Should I go or not? What do you guys think?